Hey guys, I'm Pat Kelly. Okay, so in this problem, they're talking about a binomial that's raised to a power, and then they specify one term, and all we're supposed to do is come up with that coefficient, that a value here, okay? The way that you're going to do that is to begin with a formula for that r plus 1th term, which I started writing, but I didn't write the formula down yet, because really that's kind of your job. You need to know what that formula is and make that like your first step for these problems. Okay, so the r plus 1th term will always have that binomial coefficient with the subscripts of n and r in that order. And then x will be raised to the n minus r power, and y will be raised to the r power. Okay? All right. Next, what I would do is kind of a little bit of a inventory step. Let's make sure we know exactly what each of those little pieces of the puzzle are in our problem. So I want to know what n is. I want to know what r is. And n will always end up being the exponent that you're raising the binomial to. So 10 for us. R, you have to be a little bit careful about, especially because this formula is for the r plus 1th term. But for us, it's actually straightforward, because if you look at the power, the exponent of y, that is r in this formula. And what they're asking for of us in this problem, in terms of the y, the power is 8. So that's my r value. R is just going to be 8. All right, but there's a little bit more, still in the inventory step. Because you can see in the formula, you need x and y, but you really have to be careful. Because in that formula, the x that they're talking about isn't necessarily just the variable x. In fact, I'll put quotes around it, because what x is always in this formula is the first term in your binomial. So x here is actually 4x. Now you might see why I put the quotes. I don't want you to think that x equals 4x. What we're calling x in the formula is going to be 4x for me. Similarly, I have to focus on what y is. It might not just be a regular old y. In fact, it's not. Be careful. That minus sign in front, I'm going to include that here. Okay? All right. Now you have all your ducks lined up, as old people say, which is why I'm saying it, I guess. You're ready to use the formula. Follow this formula with each of these specific values. So what we need is c sub 10 here and an 8 there. X, which actually, sorry, I want to use my quote x, so 4x there, raised to the n minus r power, so 10 minus 8 is 2. The y in the formula, again, my quote y, so parentheses minus y raised to the r power, r is 8, so we have that. Now you're set up with the formula, you're set up to simplify. So we evaluate here a little bit. This equals, okay. Our first chunk here is that binomial coefficient, especially because I got crowded there. I want to kind of point that out to you like this. We need to find that binomial coefficient with the 10 first. So that's my 10 factorial in the numerator. Downstairs is n minus r, so 10 minus 8 is 2 factorial, and then 8 factorial, the r factorial, okay? And I'm also going to clean this up. 4x squared is 16x squared. And then always be careful of your minus signs. This negative is being raised to that power. It's even though in this case, so it'll end up becoming positive, and you'll just have y to the 8th power, okay? Let's keep cleaning up, because especially the factorials, we want to simplify those. So let me slide over to do that. Pretty common trick we've been doing with these factorials is 10 times 9 times 8 factorial. The 8 crosses out with that factorial, so you just have a 2 down here, times the 16x squared y to the 8th. All right? Let's evaluate this as well. If I could slide down, I only need one more line, I believe. The 2, of course, would cross out with, you know what, I'm going to go this way. 2 crossed out with the 16 will give me 8, because then I can do 8 times 9, which is 72. It'd be easy to multiply that by the 10. 720 x squared y to the 8th. Beautiful. We're done. If I slide over here, they wanted to know what that a would be. That'd be in front of the x squared y to the 8th. You can see my a equals 720. That's what they wanted. Okay? Go do some on your own. Go on. Get to it.